All right, and we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us here at the Lakers Fast Break. And also the great shows on Viseland. That's Viseland, Viseland on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It is truly appreciated. Well, the day is here. It is the NBA draft. It is finally here. And I'll tell you what, it's great to have aboard today at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. It is Michael Visenberg of Viseland and also Perspective Insight. And so much is to be talked about on today's show, and we're going to try and cram it all in for you. It is Michael Visenberg, and Mike, just great to have you on the program today. I will be seeing you later tonight, so you're going to see my ugly face again, and I'm sorry for that, but it's great to have you aboard, my friend, for today.
Gerald, it's always great to see your face, sir. And it's great to see your wall. It's the whole thing. We're very excited to do the after draft show with you. And just very excited for the day. Ends the longest draft process that I think I definitely have ever been through. And felt like an absolute eternity with a class that you would have loved to have had maybe a shorter draft process for. But, it'll be great to see what happens and who goes where on this wonderful draft day.
Absolutely, my friend. And I'll tell you what, it's so interesting because we're going to be closing out the day here later tonight, 8:30 p.m. Pacific, right on these same channels. And it's going to be an NBA draft recap show featuring you, your brother, also as well as Stone Hansen from draftsite.com. And of course, my good friend, Rafael Barlow. I'm hoping he can bring on his brother. I've actually extended the invitation to his brother, hopefully as well. But Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. And for me, it's going to be kind of a little bit emotional because, you know, I got you all guys when I reached out for as far as the NBA draft. I reached out to each and every one of you guys, and you guys took up the mantle as far as coming on the show early on many months ago. To talk about the NBA draft, and it's been a great ride with you guys ever since. And to close it all out with you guys is going to be something special for me. So I truly appreciate it. And also getting your insight from some of the premier analysts for the NBA draft is always something for me great to hear and to see as well. So looking forward to tonight's show. Even if you're hearing this on podcasts, right after the draft, 8:30 p.m. Pacific, look out for us right here at the Lakers Fast Break so you can join us. And your questions we'll answer on the air as well. So we're looking forward to it. And for today, though, it is right now the preview for the NBA draft. And first off, my friend, we went back and forth on this as far as before the show aired. The hot rumor right now is at number one because this has been kind of a weird draft. There's no definitive number one. It's been one person 1 week, one person the next. Right now, Vegas, and I'm here in Vegas and all the betting odds, and I looked around, it looks to be more leaning towards Anthony Edwards. That tells me a little bit about how the Timberwolves, who's picking right now, number one, feel about what they want to do with their draft, but it also tells me what they can't do in trading out.
Yeah, I would think, and my money would be on Anthony Edwards being the number one pick. It just, from the very moment that the Timberwolves won the lottery, it seemed like they might go with a guy who, you know, kind of profiles to be that potential 20-point per game scorer, like maybe the best individual offensive prospect in the draft, just as far as creating his own offense, getting his own shot, cutting, slashing, being that kind of also like a good complementary offensive piece for a team that already has a D'Angelo Russell and, of course, their main guy, Karl Anthony Towns. I was thinking Anthony Edwards would be the pick. LaMelo Ball, to me, is the most talented guy in this draft, and there seemed like a possibility as well. And then the late rumor is that there's a possibility that Charlotte loves James Wiseman to the point where they might have Minnesota take him first, so the Warriors don't draft him and try and make a trade up for him. But I still feel like my money would be on the Timberwolves trading Anthony Edwards. I'm not sure the viability of any trade back at this point.
It's so funny though that I looked at my just right now as we were talking my old mock draft 1.0, and I had James Wiseman at number 1, but at various times I've had Anthony Edwards at number 1, and I had on my last one mock draft 5.0 I had LaMelo Ball at 1. Now it looks like it's going to have to change again. The one thing I want to ask you with Anthony Edwards, you got to sell me on this. How is he not going to end up being Andrew Wiggins 2.0?
I think he's a lot stronger than Wiggins was. I think that he just physical tools, I think, play into his favor. But yeah, there are certainly concerns about apathy on both ends of the court. But I just feel like there's a little more pop, a little more ability to absorb contact, and then a little bit more of an ability to, like get rebounds I think probably a superior passer at this stage than Andrew Wiggins was, though that's still not something that's a big key to Anthony Edwards' game, and probably is looked down upon in terms of him as a prospect. But yeah, I just think that there's maybe a little bit more there. Though I know that's been like a common argument of like, what is Minnesota getting itself into?
Absolutely. So it's very interesting to see. I mean, I'm not sold personally because you see glimpses of, reminders of what we see with, Andrew Wiggins, where, he can get you the 20 and 25 you need, but how fulfilling or necessary for the team's winning is that 20 to 25 points is what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to communicate. I mean, I know the feel for the game has been the one thing that I've heard from so many different draft analysts as far as, does he have the feel? Does he have those intangibles? Does he have that thing that makes him a star? Is he just going to be an empty points guy? That's what I'm worried about seeing when it comes to Edwards. But you never know. Like I said, somebody will go out there and draft him somewhere in the top 3. It is more and more looking like if Minnesota is going to be, and I can't believe I'm saying this, stuck at number 1 drafting. I think they're going to take him just because he's a better logistical fit. But I'm just questioning the fact that I still wouldn't take LaMelo Ball because he is the best asset that you would have in case you want to move him or you want to move Russell. And, if it goes sour with Cat, you probably want to move Russell as well. But and you'll still have LaMelo Ball there. But you know what? That's again, he's right now in Vegas. It is Anthony Edwards at number 1. There, that as far as the first and top choice right now. I don't know if it's 100%. I don't think it is. I think there's still a lot of internal discussions being had out there. I don't think anything's set in stone. And if anybody comes along with a trade, like you said, like a Charlotte, that could be very much in play as well.
Yeah, I could see it. It looks like Edwards if Minnesota does keep the pick. But yeah, I could see this going in a few different directions, and I'm sure that there are some teams that are interested in moving up. They just probably don't want to have to give up a future first-round pick in next year's draft, which is supposed to be quite deep, and even 2022, which is looking like it has a number of very talented players at the top of that draft as well.
So we've seen and heard from everybody out there, at least all the pundits and guys like you and me and everybody out there that seems to weigh in on the NBA draft, that the top 3 is pretty much set. There could be a surprise, but there's pretty much set between LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman, some form or fashion going in that top 3. Number 4 seems to be really in play as far as it's concerned. I've heard from Onyeka Okongwu to Denny Avia to so many other different players out there. Patrick Williams now is the sizzling hot candidate. And it's funny because on my mock draft 1.0, I really had him high up. And I got talked out of it by a lot of people saying he is not that high. He's not, what are you doing? The kid only scored 9. He's really a project. Blah, 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 blah. funny how things change by 7 months later, and you're seeing now the fact that he is rising up so dramatically, where to the point where he could become number 4. So I want to hear your thoughts. Chicago seems to be where this draft will be another tier per se. I'm not going to say it's where the draft starts, because where the draft starts this year is very interesting for that top 3. But number 4, it also gets very interesting as well, and could be a focus on how the draft goes, below, as far as the spots below, and it will dictate a lot of the action going forward.
Absolutely. And yeah, it seems like every team has their own draft tiers. So that's one thing. That's why it's hard to make a list of draft tiers, like just without taking team or anything into account, because your situation and your fit definitely plays a part into it. And then just as a team, like, what you need could definitely play a part into that as well, and what you value. And in terms of Chicago, you're right. And the first tier seems to be Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball, in some order. The next tier of guys, the players that you mentioned, like Patrick Williams is to Chicago, is something that I've heard is a possibility. Denny Avdia, Onyeka was who I had put on my last mock draft, just kind of thinking it might be like a trade chip or something. Like, you've heard that Washington and Boston both really value Onyeka Okongwu. And then
Obi Toppin's been talked about there.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Obi Toppin was the other player that where you're thinking that Golden State might really like him. Though I've heard today that, and this has been a repeated thing, where I just don't think they would take him at number 2, but I hear that Golden State really likes Denny. And like at number 4, that could be a possibility, and get a little something extra from Chicago. That is really where the draft kicks off this year. I'd be pretty surprised if the top, like the 3 guys that we mentioned in that top tier, went below there. But if they do, if somebody does like slip into that second or third spot, I could see even like LaMelo Ball possibly falling to number 4. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting just after that. The NBA's seeming top tier of guys.
Well, it's amazing to see how this is taking place. But I wanted to ask you this: who may be sliding, in your opinion? That was once thought of at a very much higher level. Obi Toppin is someone who it doesn't pick in 4 or 5, could slide all the way down to 10 or even further. That's someone I have in mind. But is there anyone in your mind that's sliding right now as far as the NBA draft?
It seems like I wouldn't call it sliding, but like Isaac Okoro and Devin Vassell were once like seen as these guys who, are really good complementary wings.
Defensive specialists.
Yeah, exactly. Defensive specialists. And then in terms of Okoro, he can handle the ball. He can pass really well. He's a really good cutter. Vassell has the shooting potential. And it seems like they're going a little bit lower now with the way that the draft is kind of shaped up. Tyrese Halliburton was a guy who could fall a tad. Like, I still don't see him falling very much, but he was a guy who once was thought of as being amongst like this, like, top half of the lottery guy. And he's somebody who could possibly like tumble a few spots from there.
It's so funny because we just got a comment, and I can't pronounce the user's name, but he indicated that in his opinion, teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Fenerbahce, Tazaka Moscow, they're able to beat teams like, I'm assuming he's trying to mean Cleveland, Charlotte, Minnesota, and Philadelphia. I don't know about Philadelphia, but maybe the other 3, it might be a tough battle.
Like Philly, like back in the day, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, and obviously, I think the EuroLeague has proven when it's their exhibition matches, but yeah, usually some really good games, and some fantastic teams there as well. One other guy who I feel, I think like Raph and a number of people, I have him number 2 on my board. Killian Hayes is somebody who I thought was, teams would just kind of convince themselves would be a top half of the lottery guy. Just so much talent there, ability to get his own shot, great passer. I really felt like he was going to be a top half of the lottery guy. And I'm hearing that there's a chance that he might slip out of the lottery altogether or go a little bit later in the lottery than I had expected. So that would be a guy that I would talk about as sort of slipping as well.
Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer. He has been on the. He was at the head of the train. He was the actual conductor.
I don't know. I honestly think Raph was kind of up there.
He was up there. Raph is up there too. And I know Raphael and I talked about him way back when. But I know for a national publication, he had him at number one, and it's had him for number one throughout. And I think he'll be the most disappointed. I know Raphael will be very, very disappointed as far as that's as well, because I've watched Killian Hayes. As an international prospect, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm higher on Killian Hayes than I am Denny Advia. I know a lot of people love Denny Advia, but I don't see as much Denny Advia. I see him more like a Dario Saric, who isn't shooting as well. And then maybe that cornerstone you need to go ahead and run the offense through, just because of the fact that his shooting right now is nowhere near where you need it to be. But again, I'm looking at that from that perspective. I think Killian Hayes comes in a little bit at a stronger value overall. I think he's a little bit better fit and a way to plug into a lineup a little bit better. But that's just my choice right now as far as internationally. What are your thoughts, Killian Hayes versus Denny Advia?
Well, yeah, as I said, I have Killian Hayes higher on my board as well for many of the same reasons you're saying. With Kevin O'Connor, I think if Killian Hayes does indeed slip to the Boston Celtics, he'll be ecstatic. And then in terms of like the people I really want to shout out, and this, I know Kevin O'Connor, obviously with The Ringer, a major publication, but the guys who were really early on Killian Hayes were on Draft Twitter. And I think that was a huge influence onto, people. And I'll put Raphael with Draft Twitter. He was one of the early guys on Killian. And then Kevin O'Connor finally released his board and, could see all the same things and everything. But I have a feeling that he was at least influenced and kind of got that idea from Draft Twitter being so early on Killian Hayes.
And shout out to Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. He is going to be part of our post NBA Draft recap. Again, tonight, 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to go ahead live on the air with the NBA Draft recap. It's going to be Mikey and Jason Visenberg from Viseland. Please check out their awesome show, Viseland. If you type in a C, that's going to take you down to a different road right there. So Viseland, as far as where you want to go for your great NBA podcast with Mikey and Jason. Also as well, DraftSite.com's own Stone Hansen will also be here. I'm hoping James Barlow will be here as well. And then also, of course, the main man indeed, Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. He's been working so hard. We've seen all the videos that he's put out there. Please give NBA Draft Junkies some great love beforehand. And for those last minute studying, because before you cram for the test that's known as the NBA Draft, there's no better place to go than NBA Draft Junkies to check out all the prospect videos, because he has worked really, really hard on it. So I give him major props as well. But my friend, before we go into a quick mock draft of the little lottery picks real quick, I wanted to ask you real quick, the Knicks, they made a kind of a smaller trade for the back end of the first round. They moved up into Utah's pick in the early 20s, and they traded away one of their later 20s and also, I think, number 38 draft pick. I'm going to get the
27 and 38.
Yeah, 27 and 38 for number 24. Is that correct? I think.
They played with Utah.
Yeah, so Utah. So now, why the motivation behind it? They may be up to something as far as they may be looking at a certain individual there. Who do they think they would be able to get at number 24 that they couldn't at number 27?
It's 23, but
23. I'm sorry, my bad.
I have a feeling that maybe they wanted to possibly move up just a tad, to get somebody. But I also have a feeling
it sounds like they're targeting somebody.
It could be targeting somebody. It could be possibly further for a trade chip. And that's just kind of what I'm wondering, if they don't just try and use 8 and 23 to maybe like trade up somebody. Maybe they're using the pick for somebody else. But I feel like the Knicks might be targeting a big guy. Like I know they've been kind of linked to like guys like Zeke Naji or Vernon Carey, who's lost a lot of weight before the draft.
I have a feeling if they can't get the point guard that they need at number 8,
yeah,
then I think at number 23 you might see like a Cole Anthony if he's there.
I totally agree. Like I have a feeling that if Cole Anthony was at 23, they would take him as well. But it could be them just targeting somebody who they feel like maybe like I guess now Oklahoma City had 25, New Orleans 24, Celtics 26. So yeah, maybe they felt like that person that they're targeting at 23 could have gone in those 3 picks.
Just seems so weird that they already announced it. I mean, that's something that I would tell if, let's say I'm the Knicks and let's say you're Utah and I call you up and I see my guy, let's say I'm shooting for Cole Anthony and he's dropping and I see it, I would announce it to you then, right around there. Say, hey, if this such and such, because that's the deals they work out. If such and such falls to your slot, are you interested in doing 27 to 38? Yeah. Why announce it so early? I'm wondering
if it's not for like a trade that they're trying to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like that's what I would think with the early announcement.
Okay. Because it seems kind of peculiar that they announced it way ahead of time like this.
Yeah.
So usually, unless it's packaged for like if you see existing players packaged along with it, that I can understand more clearly. But yeah. So this is kind of strange. I feel like Sherlock Holmes. Something's afoot right now. But we'll find out what's going on.
The Knicks have wanted LaMelo for a long time. They're upset that they didn't make it in the top 4. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
We'll see what happens indeed. But it is again Michael Visenberg from Viseland, Viseland. He, along with his brother Jason, do a great show that you need to check out. In fact, they have their own last-minute mock draft that you need to check out right now on Viseland. Okay, actually after the show here, but right before the draft, check it out, Viseland indeed. But my friend, before we head on out, I thought we'd go ahead and do our own little quick lottery mock draft. So I'm going to give you the first choice. I'm going to give you Minnesota. So you're walking up to the plate as far as Minnesota. Well, virtually, of course. You can't do it anymore as far as in real life.
On who they're going to choose or who I
Okay. We actually both. Tell me both. That would be great. These for the first 3. We'll go ahead and do that. So number 1, it is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Who do you have as for the first pick of the draft, and then who you would actually choose instead? If that's the if it's different.
It is indeed different. They, I believe, will choose Anthony Edwards. I'm still not sure about the whole James Wiseman thing, but we'll go with Edwards. And I would have chosen LaMelo Ball.
I am in agreement with you there. If there's not a trade worked out at the very top where, like you said, a Charlotte or somebody goes up there that has a different point of view in mind, I think it's going to be Anthony Edwards. Unfortunately, though, I think it would be, for me, it would be LaMelo Ball as well. So I think we're two minds think alike right there for you. Yes, exactly. Got it right there for you. Number 2 is the Golden State Warriors. For me, I think if they can't trade here, same old story. If they cannot trade down and get the right assets that they need, or trade out and get the right assets that they need for an existing player or superstar, I think they're going to go ahead and take James Wiseman. I'm kind of thinking that maybe they should have taken LaMelo Ball at this spot. I know I was being frowned upon when I suggested that and actually had that on a mock draft previous, but I think LaMelo Ball is the best talent still out of it. I think he would work great with the players that they have there. I know Stephen Curry wouldn't mind getting the rock 10, 20 times a game from LaMelo, and also as well, Klay Thompson wouldn't mind just getting those great passing skills right there for you. Plus, it sets you up for the future with a great pick there. But I think it's going to be James Wiseman just because they feel that they need that to fill that hole in the middle. I would still think you could fill it with free agency or trades, but that's my choice anyways as far as number 2.
So for number 3, Charlotte Hornets, I believe that, and I hear Michael Jordan, who has been pretty hands-on as an owner in making a lot of these picks, gave his blessing for LaMelo Ball. So I think if LaMelo Ball was number 3, they would take him. I know there have been rumors that they have wanted a center and have long craved having a big man there. But and so Onyeka Okongwu was in play. But I think they would go with the talent of LaMelo. The guy that I would choose with everybody off the board in our real life draft, I would go with Killian Hayes. I just think that he is another guy who, you can just kind of run your team, play next to a smaller guard, and just think that he has a great basketball IQ and some ability that could really help the Hornets thrive moving forward.
Killian Hayes is high up on my list, but I don't have him higher up than LaMelo. So I would take LaMelo at number 3. And how ironic it is that one of the balls behind the BBB brand be on the man behind Nike itself. How ironic is that?
I would take LaMelo Ball, like, all things considered. I guess I was kind of thrown off at the fact that LaMelo was also like the last 2 picks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's our picks as far as LaMelo Ball. But, the mock draft right now is Anthony Edwards. That what we think is going to happen. Anthony Edwards be James Wiseman, number 2, and then LaMelo Ball, number 3. Number 4 is coming up next, and that's going to be the Chicago Bulls. And again, this is going to be another tier where all these dominoes start falling. And for me, at number 4, who do I think that they're going to take? I think they're going to take Denny Advia. I don't think that would be my choice. I would probably go and lean into a different direction. I would probably have Killian Hayes right there, would be my number 4 choice instead, or probably about 2 or 3 others you could throw in for me. I mean, Patrick Williams has been talked about. I was really high on him early on. Also as well, there's other great players out there I think that might fit the bill better, but I think Denny Advia is going to be the number 4 choice for the Chicago Bulls.
All right. And the player that I hear that Cleveland is leaning towards at number 5 is Obi Toppin. So I will stick with him and, have Obi Toppin go into the Cavaliers. Obviously, was the NCAA College Player of the Year, expected to come in, give you immediate offense, some shooting, good passer as well. Defensive concerns abound with Obi Toppin. But, Cleveland just kind of needs like a little influx of talent there and somebody who can step in and play right away.
Number 6 is going to be the Atlanta Hawks. And the Atlanta Hawks, I think they're going to go ahead and buy into the hype and buy into the fast riser, and that is Patrick Williams at number 6. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think he could be someone, if anyone is going to break out, possibly outside of the top 3. I think it could be him. I think he has I think he's like the best person in that slot as far as from a molding, as far as from clay is concerned. I think you could mold him pretty much with the right coaching and the right, instruction, could really develop into a pretty good player. And especially on the defensive end, which you and I both know Atlanta needs sorely needs. And we're not sure the status of John Collins going forward from the forward slot. So I think right now for me at number 6 is Patrick Williams.
At number 7, the Detroit Pistons. I'm kind of wondering, because Golden State has already taken James Wiseman. I'm just wondering maybe if the Pistons could possibly maybe even trade back in the draft for somebody that wants Onyeka Okongwu. And that's who I'll go with at number 7. The rumor is that he has some foot issues that are recent. So he may miss some time at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure how much it will cause him to slide in this draft, but he was one of the most efficient freshmen in the NCAA. Just really good around the basket, kind of explodes off the floor, and then has fantastic defensive instincts. As a center, you're most likely playing him there. A little undersized, but I just think the athleticism and strength kind of makes up for it. So, I'm going with Onyeka to the Pistons at number 7.
Number 8, New York, New York. It's New York Knicks, and this is the pick I think everybody always seems to focus in on. It's the Knicks, wherever it is on the draft. And, I've actually gotten some support from Knicks fans when I was on the air with Rafael Barlow on the NBA Draft Junkies, and actually had a good chance to speak to him on my mock drafts. Knicks fans seem to like my picks so far. I'm going to pick Killian Hayes at number 8, somebody that you and I have talked about could go anywhere from in the top 4 to 14. We don't know, but I think Killian Hayes, he fits a need, and he's someone that can really do a great job, not only at point guard, but I think he can also do a great job if you want to slide him over off the ball. I think his shot is developing. I know as a good free throw shooter, his analytics are driving towards him being a decent shooter in the league. And I think he provides a lot of steadiness and stability that I think the New York Knicks sorely need, especially at the point guard position. He could be your point guard of the future, or he could be someone that could really be a player for you that fits on both ends of the spectrum for point and shooting guard. So I'm going to go ahead with Killian Hayes at number 8. I think he's a good pick for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, I would agree there. If he does get picked by New York, I think he's keeping it really on the DL because I think he was just interviewed and said they hadn't worked out for New York, but that could be a smokescreen. So who knows?
Yes.
At number 9, there are some really good players left. I have a hard time seeing Tyrese Halliburton slip, but I'm going to go with just a guy that I believe is rumored to be somebody that Washington likes quite a bit, and I'm going with Precious Achiuwa. And this is a lot higher than I would have expected Precious to go, but I truly believe like the link between Precious and Washington, it might just be like the fit. And Precious is like that energy guy, really good athlete. You kind of question his feel, but I just think that, he has the body, he has the athleticism, and ultimately I think he's a guy who I believe Washington could choose. And since we're going by that, that's who I'm going with there at number 9.
That's a very interesting pick because I've seen him all over the place from the high teens to the 20s to even the 30s, out of even the first round, depending on who you talk to. So that's a pick, all right.
And this is just something that I've heard and I believe. And we're trying to nail this mock draft, Gerald. So yeah. I'm taking the bait and just saying Precious is I think there's a good chance that he could be a lottery guy. I wouldn't take him that high, but that's just okay.
I want to make sure that's clarified. He, meaning Michael Visenberg, wouldn't pick him that high, but he's hearing from the word on the street is that he's hearing.
We're making some guys fall a bit here.
Yes, that we are, my friend, indeed. But I truly appreciate everyone listening to us and watching us out there. I want to go ahead at number 10, Phoenix, which is riding high off the Chris Paul trade. I've already seen Chris Paul and Devin Booker already working out together, so they're now becoming the best of friends. Hopefully, Chris Paul is scanning the golf courses to make sure his handicap is he a scratch, or I heard he's pretty good at golf too. So yes, he'll get plenty of practice there in Phoenix. But I will say this, that number 10, they do need someone on the defensive end. Okoro, I would say maybe, but the thing is he plays the same slot as Booker, so I don't know if he would get as much time as he needed. So I'm going to say Devin Vassell. I'm going to say Devin Vassell at number 10. He is it was so funny because at the first time in mock draft 1.0, I was told that Vassell was the first one that's going to get picked out of Florida State, yet I had chose Patrick Williams. Then it evolved where Patrick Williams was sliding down in those mock drafts to around 15 or so, and Devin Vassell's been right in that area the whole time, and while Patrick Williams has gone like ping-ponging all over the place. I think that Devin Vassell could fit with a little bit more bulk right there, maybe play off of Booker and Paul. So I see him as a wing, a little bit smaller, although he's around 6'7", 6'7" right there. Yeah, so I think he could play on the wing. And the most important thing is he can play defense and shoot the 3 which I think they will need right there in Phoenix at number 10.
Yeah. He kind of they need like depth at pretty much every position. So
Yeah.
I've heard them linked to Vassell as well. So I think that's a good pick. It's just crazy that like in our mock draft we have like Halliburton and Isaac
Obi Toppin
on the board. Oh, I took Obi Toppin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But
yeah, so we have those guys. I'm gonna go with Kyra Lewis Jr. though.
At San Antonio?
Yeah, I just I have a feeling that he doesn't slip too far. He's just I know that they do have quite a few guards, but this is the guy that I'm trying to project who San Antonio might take. And I just have a feeling that they like the athleticism, how much he improved during that first year. They're always a team that just loves having these like quick guards and just like talent there, and then collecting assets as well. So I just think Kyra is a good player, and that could be somebody that San Antonio locks in on.
Sacramento, who I felt didn't get enough in the Bogdanovich trade, but they got some decent assets, but I still think they could have done more as far as from an asset standpoint is concerned in that trade. I think they should have gotten a little bit more for Bogdanovich before they traded him to Milwaukee. They're at number 12. And it's so funny because Isaac Okoro, Halliburton, they've all dropped, but they may or may not have a need for it. You know what? I think they will go ahead and have a need for a shooting guard, even though Buddy Hield's there, and I think that's going to be something that they're going to need. I was picking Naismith for this slot for the longest time, but I am since Halliburton and also as well Okoro have dropped. I think they need defense there. I think Luke Walton needs all the help he can get down there. But I'm going to go with Isaac Okoro for the Kings at number 12. I think from a defensive standpoint, they need to start realistically looking at that, or else they're going to get killed. If they want to have any type of playoff aspirations, they need to shore up their defense. And they need to stay healthy too. But I think at number 12 would be Isaac Okoro for me.
And I think he should have gone higher. And I wouldn't be surprised if he fell to San Antonio if San Antonio took him as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just, it's crazy how this kind of worked out, and that could be something that we're looking at tonight.
That's funny because Tyrese Halliburton, somebody that we had looked at number 3. In some places, it's certain places, certain drafts have shown as high as number 3. Number 4, number 5, number 6 is most definitely, and now he's fallen off of our mock draft completely. So that's
I have, let's say at 13. I'll stop the slide and just believe that the Pelicans would either try and trade the pick or do something. Tyrese Halliburton, obviously a great linking piece, has been a really good spot up shooter, great passer. Has defensive instincts like off the ball, not like the best on ball defender, and then like never gets to the free throw line, has a really hard time getting to the basket. So he's not somebody that you want being your primary initiator. But
reminds me a lot of Lonzo Ball in a way.
Exactly. And it would be very strange if they were both on the same team. I don't see this happening, but it's just the way that things worked out.
If he's there, he's going to be traded. I have a feeling if that's the case, because you can't have 4-point guards on your team, as we see. Well, actually, 5.
I don't think he is one. Like that. That's the other thing. Like I think he's kind of more of the 2 guard, but a 2 guard that can pass and then hit, catch and shoot. So yeah.
So there you go. And that's the slide has ended with the New Orleans Pelicans, who are just obtaining all these assets. And it's amazing what they did in regards to Drew Holiday. Okay, you want Drew Holiday? Okay, this is what you need to give me back. 2-point guards, 3 first-round draft picks, and 2 pick swaps. Similar to what you saw with AD. So I want to ask you this. Was Drew Holiday – I think they had to overpay in order to get him because he was so wanted and desired by so many other teams. But do you think it was a way overpay on the part of Milwaukee?
I think it was an overpay, but I think that as we had talked about, I think maybe the last time I was on the show, but it was a little while ago. We talked about Giannis in the Supermax, and now Mark Stein and other people are reporting that Giannis may re-sign for the Supermax with Milwaukee. 5-year extension. You're guessing maybe a few player options there, but if they have Giannis for another like 3 years on top of this upcoming one, then I think that's worth it. It's all about Giannis. That's what.
About Giannis.
Yeah,
it is all about Giannis indeed. So our mock draft is going to end at number 14 with the Boston Celtics, and Boston has been pretty much targeted right to Saddiq Bey for pretty much most of these drafts, these mock drafts. I've seen Saddiq Bey just right there for a lot of individuals. So I'm not as high on him as maybe some others. I think he's to me as a lower in the teens, maybe like 17, 18 for me. But I would probably say Saddiq Bey at this point in time as far as the 3 and D type individuals. So for me, Saddiq Bey is at number 14. If you want to go further, let me know. We can go further.
we can keep going.
All right. Well, let's keep going indeed. It is, again, the NBA draft preview from all of us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I'm also on with Mikey Visenberg. That's Michael Visenberg at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. And also as well, you got to catch his shows with Jason Visenberg. The brothers fight, but it's pretty much actually a good show to watch. They don't fight as much as me and Laker Tom do, so that's always a good thing. And they do that at Viseland.
We're trying to get there.
Okay. My gosh, Laker Tom is passionate about anything, and if you say the wrong thing to him, my gosh, the vengeance is upon you. But catch everything that Mikey and Jason do at Viseland, Viseland, on YouTube. Viseland indeed. So we're going to go ahead at number 15. So who do you have at number 15 for the Orlando Magic?
At number 15 for the Orlando Magic, I will go with somebody that I had in my Viseland mock draft 3.0, and that is Tyrese Maxey. He's not exactly solving all your needs at point guard, but he's somebody that I think is, has 3-level scoring potential, really good and creative around the basket, excellent balance, and just he's going to make good decisions. He's not necessarily running your team, but you can expect low turnovers. And I still think there's shooting potential there with Maxey as well. So he's a guy that works and then provides you some defense as well. So I am going with Tyrese Maxey to the Magic at 15.
Number 16 is the Portland Trailblazers, and this is a team that just
it's actually the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, so it's they're picking for the Houston Rockets,
yeah.
I think. Right? Yeah. So it's the
part of the Covington trade.
Yeah, part of the as I argued with Laker Tom on this, and Laker Tom did have a good point on the Stepien rule. It's like, get rid of it. I mean, it's just. Yeah, just get rid of it. It's ridiculous at this point. But it is the AKA Houston Rockets at this point, and Houston is going to need talent because they're either going to get an influx of talent if they make a trade, which I'm not sure they're going to do because they're going to go ahead and stand pat and not cave in to Russell Westbrook and James Harden and make them miserable. But there is kind of like a sellout going on, garage sale a little bit when you've got Robert Covington and you trade him away. That was the one that surprised me the most because it tells me right there that they're trying to cut costs a little bit in Houston, and it's not sending the right message to James and also as well Russell that as far as, that's your future. So you trade one away, your core pieces right there. So that's sending a message right out there to you. But Houston is now funny. Daryl Morey leaves, and now they have a first-round draft pick again. And for this is going to be at 16. I think I'm going to go with Aaron Naismith for outside shooting purposes because you know how much they still love to shoot. And that team is still built, whoever's there, for that 3-point shooting barrage. And he is the best shooter in the draft, in my opinion. I've watched his stroke. I think it is legit. I think he can shoot 40% from the 3-point area in the league. Whether or not he can stay on defense, that's going to be the ultimate key to how far he progresses in the league. So I'm going to shoot for Aaron Naismith at number 16 for the Houston Rockets. Remember, it's not Portland. Portland will be picking for them most likely, but it is Houston because of the trade for Robert Covington.
All right.
17.
17. I like this pick, but I'm not sure if Minnesota does. I'm thinking Pokashevsky, but I'm going to pick Jalen Smith. And I just feel like this is right around his range.
I had him on my mock draft. I re-entered him in my mock draft at number 16. So that's what I was thinking around there too.
Yeah, the guy that I immediately thought of at 16 was Alexei Pokashevsky. I just feel like Houston will make that play and kind of go for the upside there. But yeah, I'll go with Jalen Smith. I just think this is right around his range. I don't love the fit next to Karl Anthony Towns, and defensively it could be a bit challenging, especially when you add in like Anthony Edwards. But he's certainly has some talent. Is at least a like decent rim protector. Has shooting potential and a good athlete with like decent physical tools. You just kind of worry about the strength, I guess. But yeah. I think Jalen Smith probably goes right around here, so I'll take him at 17.
At number 18, he's not going to slide down too much farther because I am super high on this kid. It is Alexei Pokashevsky for the Dallas Mavericks.
I just think that's a good fit. Like, I just think that's something that's probably going to happen. So,
he has the talent of a top 5 pick. I'm going to tell you right now, what I've seen, I've watched this kid hours on tape, on whatever I can find. I'm really high on him. I know on one of the guests that Rafael Barlow had, he picked him number 1. I don't think he's going to go number 1, but I think he has a top 10 talent. It's just a matter of can he put on the weight and the strength? Because obviously at 7 foot, 200 pounds, that's not going to get it done, and he'll just be broken like a twig, or at least Dwight Howard will look at him and laugh and just go ahead and proceed to go ahead and break him in half. But this kid, he's like a guard because he just likes to shoot 3-pointers. He loves to pass. I've seen him make full court, half court passes. He's really, truly a dynamic player. The question is he going to be able to bulk up and strengthen up enough in order to be effective on the floor? So I think Dallas is a great place to go for a lot of international prospect. There's already one unicorn there. This could be a second unicorn that they have in the making. So I'm picking Dallas Mavericks, Alexei Pokashevsky, who I would hope and actually won't be surprised if he goes much higher, will land at number 18 for the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to say that right now. I think 18 is still too low for him because I think he can bulk up, but I think just because people are scared off by the 200 pounds.
If Kristaps is a unicorn, is like Luka Doncic like the Loch Ness monster? Like
something like that, yeah.
Being that like lethal of a force.
Exactly.
Yeah. So at 19, I'm going with this is what I've heard is a promise, and there's a possibility this guy goes a little higher as well. RJ Hampton. I've heard that Brooklyn really likes RJ Hampton. Very talented, played with the New Zealand Breakers in the Australian NBL, and he is dynamic, like as far as movement. He's a good leaper as well, and I think there are flashes in terms of ball handling, passing, and then you just hope that the shooting improves. But there are certainly tools to build with RJ Hampton.
At number 20, it's going to be the Miami Heat. And for the Miami Heat, I think it's all about win now, but also save enough cap space for Giannis in case he decides to not opt into his contract. And if that's the case, I think at number 20, if they still want to go ahead and be a team that wins now, I'm going for Desmond Bane at number 20. Senior, great outside shooter, solid D. I think he brings a lot to the table. And in case you lose Goran Dragic and maybe Derek Jones Jr., if you lose both of those players due to free agency, I think he's a nice fit that can go ahead and be a solid role player for you on your team. So I'm shooting for Desmond Bane at number 20 for the Miami Heat.
It's a good one. At 21, I am going to go with I'm going to go with Josh Green. I think that
This is for the Sixers, everyone.
This is 21 for the Philadelphia 76ers, going with Josh Green. Really good defender, like one of the best in the draft, like outside of probably Vassell and Okoro on the wing. And then offensively, really struggles around the rim, but he has shooting potential, good passer. Just somebody that I think you take a bet on as being a rotation piece, which at 21 is kind of what you're looking for. I still think so. I know that all the talk, because I think that James Harden is done. Like I think they are absolutely trading James Harden and Russell Westbrook. I know that they both have time left on their contract, but I just think it's over, especially with the trading of Robert Covington. I still think that the package that the Philadelphia 76ers have to offer, possibly around Ben Simmons for James Harden, is going to be very enticing. And I also think the thought of possibly playing next to Joel Embiid and like a good team is also enticing for James Harden. So I'm not like completely sold on it being like Brooklyn or nothing, because I just don't think that he has that kind of leverage right now, with him still having 2 years left on his contract. But I still think Josh Green is a nice fit there.
At number 22, it's going to be the Denver Nuggets via Houston. And I'm going to say right now, I had put there right there in the mock draft, Josh Green. Will they go that route? I'm not so sure, because you have Tyrell Terry, you have Cole Anthony, somebody maybe to go ahead and back up as far as what you got going on with Jamal Murray, as far as a point guard backup for him. Could you go with Josh Green as far as from a shooting guard standpoint?
Not anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Well, not anymore. But I will probably say at this point, I'm going to go with Cole Anthony to go ahead and provide them some off the bench type firepower, because he doesn't need to go ahead and worry about running the team per se. He needs to just go out there and get buckets and go ahead and just be a force on offense. And having him and MPJ coming off the bench, if MPJ stays on the bench, I don't think he's going to stay on the bench. I think he's going to become a starter once again. It just has to go ahead and shore up those defensive issues. So if they're really going to commit to Michael Porter Jr. as their future, I think Cole Anthony would be a good choice to have right around them at number 23 for the Denver Nuggets.
22.
Yeah.
And 23 is the New York Knicks.
Yes, who we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Tough position to be in right now.
Cole Anthony was there for him and just boop,
almost.
Right, almost.
And then you have like guys like Tyrell Terry still on the board.
But they did get Killian Hayes earlier in the draft.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't know how far Theo Maledon falls, but I don't think the Knicks would take Killian Hayes and Theo Maledon. Yeah. I'm thinking they might want a big here. And you know what? I'm just gonna go with Malachi Flynn. I know he's another point guard, but I think this is also like right around his range. And it even if you do take it like a Killian Hayes, I think it's good, because right now I think none of the guys who are playing point guard in the Knicks are like necessarily in their future as a point guard. So I could see them doubling up there, and then maybe even like possibly making a trade with like one of the picks further. But yeah, I just feel like this is right around Malachi Flynn's range. So I'll stick with him. One of the best pick and roll players in the draft, was an excellent defensive player. Like, I think he was a consensus second team All-American. Probably was on some people's first teams. Transferred from Washington State, and just tough as nails and really solid player. A guy you could really see being a rotation guard for a team.
He's more of a ready to play now type player, because he has the experience. And he was actually someone at number 24 I was going to pick had you not picked him. But at number 24, because right now the depth issue there has been for Milwaukee. Milwaukee, who had such great depth during the course of the season, have traded away quite a bit in the past couple of days. So they're going to need to fill up that with some quality players.
This is for New Orleans, though.
This is for New Orleans, yes. New Orleans, That's right, because goes from Indiana to Milwaukee, now to over to New Orleans. Thank you for correcting me on that. So going to New Orleans, they don't need another point guard because they now have 4, according to what we're choosing right now, technically. So last thing they need is a point guard. So I'm going to go for someone who's been really hot as far as rising up in the draft. I think this might be a little bit of a reach, but he's also been a hot name, and that's Robert Woodard II out of Mississippi State. Athletic, just can jump out of the gym. Could be someone that could work off well with Giannis as far as just if Giannis gets the double team and he's cutting to the basket, can get those lobs right there for you. And plus, you also have Drew Holiday. Huh? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Working with Zion again. I'm just so many traces, so many plays. So it is going to New Orleans. I'm going to say Robert Woodard the second because obviously he can work well with Zion. I think as far as from an athletic standpoint, you have Zion going off working for 30 minutes with his, I don't know if it's great health issues, but coming off the bench for 10, 15, 20 minutes, Robert Woodard can play like a Zion light, so to speak, and be that athletic individual that can spark a lot of athleticism and can be someone that can give you some great minutes off the bench. I think at this point, if you can get a contributor, I think you're really doing well because I think at this right now, it's a crapshoot pretty much for all said and done as far as that's concerned, because now you're reaching for players you can hope and develop into rotation players. I think Robert Woodard II can be someone that can play for you now. And actually do a great job of just being that athletic dynamo that I think any team, especially a young team like New Orleans, can really utilize very well.
Yeah. New Orleans just has so much depth like everywhere now.
They've got 30 players on the roster. They're actually going to get an exemption for 30 players on their roster.
At 25, I'm going to go with something I also heard was a possible promise, Tyrell Terry. And he was freshman point guard at Stanford. Was somebody that people liked, on the Adidas circuit in high school, but wasn't necessarily seen as a one and done. Comes into Stanford, contributes immediately. Smart player, but the thing that he does best is shooting. Yeah. And shot over 40% from the 3-point line, 90% from the free throw line. The guy can really shoot the ball off the dribble, off the catch, and you just hope that he can maybe work on some of the other aspects of his game. Didn't get to the basket a lot, but when he did, he finished surprisingly well. You just kind of wonder with the body. I know through the pre-draft process, he's been kind of one of the stars, and that he's apparently now over 170 pounds, but he's also 170 pounds. He still has a ways to go. Yes. And he has kind of a chalk wingspan. But I felt like the only reason he would enter the draft is if he had that first-round guarantee, and I think it might be coming from Oklahoma City at 25.
I would not see him sliding farther than the Boston Celtics at the next pick. So if he doesn't go there or earlier, I think he's not going past Boston Celtics. So that's just my opinion as well. I think his 3-point shooting and his playmaking ability can be good. Although, like you said, his size, he's going to be a target on defense, similar to what they have already with Kemba Walker. But I think he can provide a lift off the bench for any team out there that's looking for it. So he just gets a little bit more weight on him. He can really be someone that makes it as 8 to 10 years in the league as a backup point guard coming off the bench that can get you a really good amount every game. All right. Coming up next is at number 26 with the Boston Celtics. And Boston Celtics, I think at this point in time, since Tyrell Terry went off the board, I think they're going to go for a developmental program in Jaden McDaniels out of Washington. And someone that you are very familiar with, I know, that you have studied quite closely. I think he's a project, but does have the developmental tools to go ahead and become a player. He's going to be either a big swing or big hit or big miss at this point in time. I think it's going to be either or. And I think if any team that can really get the best out of him, I think it could be the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Jaden McDaniel at number 26.
I like the pick. I think that this is probably right around his range. I've heard that he's probably not slipping out of the first round. The team that I've also heard him tied to is Oklahoma City, who has another pick a couple picks later. That'll be
Yeah.
your next pick.
That'll be they have 10,000 picks as well during.
They really do.
Yes.
They really do. At 27, the Utah Jazz. I'm just gonna go with a rumor again that I've been hearing. Because to me these are all rumors, but there's some viability to them, and I know they trade for 27 and 38. No, you know what? I'm gonna go with Vernon Carey Jr. And just assume that they're kind of looking for help as maybe like a backup center or anything like that. I don't know if you've seen Vernon Carey Jr. lately, but he's lost like
30 pounds
of weight. Yeah. So like looks like a different guy. He was also like one of the most efficient like freshmen in the nation and had a really good freshman year. Was like I think like consensus like second team All-American, was one of the better players in the ACC. In limited minutes, like that's the other thing. Like, so his per 40-minute numbers are pretty crazy. Defensive concerns abound for sure, but the guy he almost kind of reminds you of is like Enes Kanter.
Yeah.
And I just think there's a lot of offensive talent there. And if losing the weight helped his defensive footwork or ability on that end of the floor, then you could really have something there. At least as like a third big, and you know, that's something that I think you can gamble on here.
Number 28 is coming up next, and that was the Los Angeles Lakers, but they're choosing for Oklahoma City. I think it was a good trade to get Dennis Schroeder onto that team. I think it's a move you need to make. I think they need more moves to make now that the West and East is their powerhouse teams are all making moves. So I think there's more work to be done for the Los Angeles Lakers, but they are choosing for Oklahoma City. So hopefully they'll put on that, whoever it is they draft, to put on that virtual Lakers hat for like 10 seconds before they know that they realize that they're going to Oklahoma City. But at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and pick Tyler Bay out of Colorado for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think as a developmental talent, he could play. He's very athletic, one of the most athletic individuals in the draft. And I think someone that can give you a good fit right away, coming off the bench, give you some athleticism, give you a spark off the bench. I see him as someone that could give you some good minutes from the bench, but don't expect a whole lot from him. In fact, don't expect a whole lot at this point in time, and just be ready to develop some of these kids. But I think Tyler Bay is a little bit more NBA ready than some of the kids right here that we're seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and pick him at number 28 for Oklahoma City.
Yeah, he always seemed like a very like Oklahoma City kind of mold of a player, and that, you know, the athleticism, the defense, and then the shooting potential.
Yeah.
He didn't have a very big sample size. So Raptors at 29, they could go in a lot of different directions. I am going to go with, like, I don't think Theo Maledon slips out of the first round, but I'm going to go with Xavier Tillman here. And I just think another guy who was one of the better players in the NCAA like the past couple years, really like great defensive instincts, hard to move on the block in general. Probably like I'd say by far the best screen setter in the draft, really great passer off the short roll, just a smart player who you could develop to be a good valued big man. And I would probably have him a little bit higher, like if things went according to my plan. But I think that there's a good chance Xavier Tillman ends up being a first-round pick.
So we head off to the final pick in our mock draft, and that's going to be number 30. It is the Boston Celtics. And if you see this kid being drafted in the first round, it's because this team wants to go ahead and draft and stash him because he has a contract going on with his team for at least 1, if not 2 years, and that is Leandro Balmero. And I think that a lot of people liken him to as far as some really great international players, good vision, good court awareness, a really solid player. I think is someone who, if he were not committed to another team, would actually go a little bit higher in the draft. But I think because he has that 1, possibly 2-year commitment, he's going to be a draft and stash. And if Boston is stuck with all 3 picks and they didn't trade it up or didn't trade it out or weren't able to remove any of these picks, I think they're going to have no choice but to go ahead and get someone like a Leandro Barmero that they're going to have to stash for a year or 2 anyways, just so they can clear up their roster space, because they have so many draft picks and so many assets themselves. I think they have 15 signed players on their roster already, so that's going to create a logjam there. So if that's the case, I would see them getting a Leandro Barmero. I think Theo Maledon is someone that you and I talked about shouldn't be slipping out of the first round, but if that's the case and Boston is picking, I think they will absolutely have no choice but to pick someone like Barmero, simply because of the fact that they need to go ahead and draft and stash someone at that point in time.
Yeah, they just don't have enough roster space. So if they could convince Theo Maledon to maybe stay a year in France, or possibly go on like a 2-way in the beginning.
I heard he's been adamant. I heard he's been adamant about wanting to come directly to the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a feeling that Boston's going to probably move some of the picks, but we'll see. And I think Barmero to Boston, playing like these next couple years with FC Barcelona, could come over and be a good rotation guard. So that's been a guy I've seen commonly linked to Boston.
I've heard the comparisons to Manu Ginobili, so we'll see if that's the case. But
they're both from Argentina. Yeah. That is true.
Yeah. So I've heard those comparisons. But Theo Maledon, he reminds me a little way of Ivica Zubac. And Zubac was so adamant on saying, I'm coming directly to the NBA, whoever drafts me. And I think that's why he slipped to the second round to the Lakers at that point in time. It's because he was so adamant and teams didn't want to go. They wanted to draft and stash him, and he didn't want to be drafted and stashed. That same thing might happen to Theo Maledon. And if he drops to the second round, I think that's the reason why.
Have you ever talked about the Zubac and Mike Muscala thing?
Don't even mention it to me. I don't even talk about it.
I'm sorry.
That was under the Magic regime, and that's a sore issue. Just imagine him on the Lakers this year. How
nice. Would have been very nice.
Yes, would have been very nice indeed.
I know the Clippers were upset that they didn't play him more. So yeah.
Yeah. So don't remind me. That one always hurts me, even to this day.
You didn't get it.
Yes, I don't even get it either. But I'll tell you what, my friend, it's been great going ahead and going through an entire mock draft and also previewing today's NBA draft. You and I are going to see each other again for the NBA draft later this evening, as far as when we recap it at 8:30 Pacific. So stay tuned to the Lakers Fast Break channels, either on YouTube, also as well. You want to look for us on Facebook Live, all over the place. And also, you can go ahead and check us out at Lakerholics.com. I'll have a feed running there as well for our post-draft show that I'm looking forward to. Again, Michael Visenberg, Jason Visenberg, Stone Hansen, and, of course, Rafael Barlow, the man himself, the guy who seems to center the whole NBA draft pundits all around him and all of his great shows and all the things that he does. It's so great to go ahead and be talking to all you guys. It feels like a reunion for me, so to speak, and I think it's just so special because again, I may get misty-eyed. We'll see. But, my friend, it's been so great talking NBA draft, previewing it, upcoming. We'll see here in a couple hours. This is going to go right out away on audio format, so hopefully you get a chance to hear this. And I'll tell you what, everybody enjoy the draft tonight, and we'll see you later on tonight, 8:30 p.m. Pacific. Just type in Lakers Fast Break. You will find us, YouTube, Facebook, and also Lakerholics.com. You're going to go ahead and check us out tonight for our NBA draft recap right here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast.